This is Weighing In with Travis Hartman, possibly the most important podcast you'll hear ever in your life, ever.
Alright, I'm recording, but whatever.
And with that, welcome to another episode of Weighing In with Travis Hartman, where we pepper your eardrums talking about boxing, sports, life, whatever else comes to mind. We drink a little whiskey, have a little fun here. That over there is Travis Hartman, and I am Brandon Waters. Before we get started, please feel free to give us a like, a shout out, follow us, do whatever the kids are doing on all the socials. We're out there. Just go search for us and find us. You know, we're on Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, all the good ones. So just go ahead and give us some support. If you don't like what you hear, please feel free to rip us apart. You might have some friendly banter back and forth with us as well. So with that being said, once again, I'm Brandon Waters. That over there is Travis Hartman. Travis, tell us, what are we weighing in on today?
What's up, Brandon? I feel like we have to stick to some boxing, right? Because this is weighing in with Travis Hartman.
It's a boxing-oriented podcast, so let's do that.
Well, it's good because Fox Sports finally announced their boxing schedule for the rest of the year, and it's very exciting for the welterweight division. So just briefly, before we kind of get into everything, I kind of want to go over that because it's going to be good because it leads up to an Errol Spence fight, which is what we talked about last time. So it's a pretty big prelude to all of that. So starting off August 22nd, Sean Porter is fighting Sebastian Formella it's a welterweight title eliminator, which that matters because Errol Spence and Sean Porter have fought, and it's probably one of Errol Spence's hardest fights to date. So I think what they're trying to do is
Everything goes on this podcast. We just had a ghost open a door. If you're watching on the video, which is hilarious. So, Travis, keep going. Let me figure out what's going on here.
So I guess the welterweight division is a little haunted right now, and it's haunted by Errol Spence, who we don't know is going to fully come back. But so back to the schedule is August 22nd. Sean Porter is fighting Sebastian Formella, and that's a welterweight title eliminator, which I think they're probably trying to set up another Errol Spence possible fight. But that's also August 22nd. And then Saturday, August 29th, Erislandy Lara is fighting Greg Vendetti in a welterweight title for the WBC super welterweight title. And another good fight. Erislandy Lara is kind of like a guy who's fought pretty much everybody. He fought Canelo in a fight that a lot of people thought Lara won because of his fighting style. He does fight he's a Cuban and he fights a very, very technical style. So he doesn't throw a lot of punches, but the punches he throws is very good. But a lot of people thought he beat Canelo, and I watched the fight, and I mean, you could easily argue that it was a draw when he fought Canelo. So the fact that he's fighting again is a pretty big deal because they're probably going to try to set up some big fights. He only usually fights in big fights because he takes what they'll give him at the end of the day.
So this is all on Fox, right?
This is Fox. It's
all
part
right,
of the PBC series as
gotcha.
well.
So this brings us through the end of the month at the very least. Canelo, I know we had talked pre-production just a little bit. What's going on with him? There's some issue with DAZN currently right now.
Yeah, because by now Canelo would have already fought, but he signed that big, huge, I think it was a 5-year, $365 million contract with DAZN, which if anybody knows anything, DAZN is the new app. It's DAZN USA because it's based out of the UK originally with Matchroom Boxing, Eddie Hearn is who started it. And I think they invested like $3 billion in this. So like they're really expecting this to take off. So what it is, Canelo will never fight on a pay-per-view card ever again. Not for at least 5 years because DAZN is only a subscription-based. You pay like $10 to $15 a month and you get to see all of their fights for that price. You don't pay one pay-per-view cost.
So what's the issue going on with them currently?
So that's the tough part is because of the king coronavirus. There's no fans, so it's more difficult for a lot of these streaming and even TV fights to pay these big-time guys to honor their contracts necessarily because the money is still there for the online and the advertisers, but they count on a lot of the live gate, which is the fans, and they need that, and that's where boxers can make a lot of their money. So right now, there's a little bit of a dispute with Canelo because they can't really afford to pay him. And Canelo's like, I'm not going to fight. Like, you can't afford to pay me, then I'm not going to fight. And it's a stalemate because technically he's right. technically they're right because they can't afford it because there's not a live gate, and that's not their fault either. That's kind of I think if you want to get into lawyer terms, it's kind of tough because it's an act of God, you could technically say, with this virus and pandemic. So therefore, they could say and argue that they don't have to fulfill that full contract because it was an act of God that stopped it. And then Canelo could be like, well, you promised me you're going to pay me this much per fight. I'm not fighting unless I get that much. So there's a little bit of a jockeying going on, and I hope they figure it out, which I think they will, because Canelo is the face of boxing right now. If anybody knows anything about, Canelo Alvarez is the face of boxing, and in my opinion, he's a top 3 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. I have Terrence Crawford, who, by the way, I fought in the professionals and went the distance and lost the decision to. Terrence Crawford, Vasily Lomachenko, and Canelo Alvarez. You can put those 3 however you want, but they're my top 3. So when Canelo is on the bench right now, it's not good for boxing.
Gotcha. But that's the thing. We're looking at a once in really a lifetime situation going on. You're seeing it with the other sports. We talk about this every week. A lot of our conversation has been geared more towards how the coronavirus has been impacting a lot of these sports leagues. But you bring up all these interesting points about the contracts. You know, baseball, it took them forever to figure out how they were going to readjust things and how they pay players, ownership, and profit sharing, and yada, 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 to get their small season put back on. I'm not sure what happened with the NBA. The NFL, you're seeing players opt out, here and there, sprinklings of players opting out of the rest of the year, and I'm not sure how that impacts their contracts either. So I understand he has every right to basically sit the bench on his own accord. He signed a contract. The contract was stated and how much money he's supposed to be making. But fighters and everyone has to understand this is different. I mean, this is a chance not only to go back to the negotiation table. It might be advantageous for him to do so, to readjust some things and maybe try to get, some hooks into other avenues with the zone and whatever else.
I think this is an important topic because I think this affects everybody in everyday life, and this is why I think people don't realize about boxing. So the good thing you could say about baseball and football and even basketball is they were offering them money to not play. Okay, you're allowed to opt out, right? Guess what? Boxing, if we opt out, we don't get paid.
Yeah.
So us fighters, they all want to fight. So I can tell you right now that Canelo wants to fight. So there's no opting out for him. If Canelo opted out, he's getting 0. If he refuses to fight, we're not part of a big league where we have this players union or this fighters union. We don't have that. So that's why I think you're seeing boxing kind of take off more right now than any other sport, is because none of these guys are opting out, because with boxers, we have to fight to get paid.
Well, so that's different though. So if you're talking about some of these other, which we're talking big names anyways, but a lot of these fights are happening because, frankly, like you said, if they don't fight, they don't get paid. They need money. They need to have income. A guy like Canelo, I get. He has the ability. Now, I'm not one of his financial advisors or on his team to do so.
But maybe you should be.
I'm not disagreeing with you there. But chances are he's probably sitting okay. He can wait this thing out and really leverage them to uphold his contract. And if they can't, then they can't. It's not good for the fans. It's not good for the app or the organization, but he has every right to. So I see that point of view too. It'd be nice to see a higher profile athlete in a solo sport, though, come to bat a bit.
Yeah, it would be. Because I think right now, and you're exactly right, I think Canelo's the exception, not the rule. He's the 1 in a million guy who actually has a leg to stand on in negotiating, because he's doing okay. He's the face of boxing. This guy's made a ton of money already, and he's deserved it. He's well deserving of that money. But the rest of the boxers on the lower totem pole, we got to fight for that. I mean, these guys aren't making a lot of money as is, and when they don't fight, they don't make money. And that's the difference between boxing and other sports is if they don't fight, we don't get a salary. There's no salary. You fight, you get paid. If you don't fight, you don't get paid. So that's why you're seeing a lot of the, I wouldn't say lower level. I mean, I feel like it's disrespectful, but you're seeing a lot of the guys that are, they're not in the 1% of the paydays of like the Canelos and the Floyd Mayweathers. You see those guys battling it out right now, which this is a time where you're going to see some guy emerge from those fights right now that's coming back and trying to fight his butt off to get to the Canelo level. You're going to see a guy emerge out of all of this because he did go back to work. He chose to come back to work.
What's so tough, though, is that in any other circumstance, you would then envision, okay, it's all kind of lining up for more regionals, more local shows, more, this or that coming to light, which would be phenomenal. But now, once again, we're kind of stuck then with, well, how do we operate in the coronavirus world? How do promoters put something together, or can they? It would be great if they could, but I just don't think that there's an ability to. For instance, you got the Sugarbird Classic coming up right at the end of the month.
Amateur tournament, yep.
Amateur tournament. Have we heard? I mean, is that still, going off?
As of right now, it is. But the crazy part about it all is, I don't know if I've mentioned this or not, but I just found out that they're requiring the boxers who already have headgears on, they're requiring them to wear masks while they're boxing.
Whoa.
Somebody told me this, and I said, no. I was like, that's crazy. No way, because the boxers are already wearing headgears, which is very overheated, right? Well, no, the new mandate is that the boxers now have to wear masks while competing per USA Boxing rules. So at the end of this month, which is August 28th to the 30th, is the Sugarbird Classic, the boxers are now required to wear face masks, Brandon. Now, let me get your opinion on that.
If you're watching at home, I have the dumbest look on my face because I'm completely dumbfounded by that. Now, as an avid gym goer and that sort of thing, every time I hear about a different gym wanting to, mandate having a face mask while you work out, I think, well, there's health implications to that just from breathing anyways. For instance, you can't run with a mask on, if you're doing a treadmill. I get it if you're doing, there's certain training methods if you're an athlete, but if you're just a normal person going to the gym, to wear a mask while you're doing all these things, it's restrictive. It's actually not very good for you. Wow, Travis. How in the world can you get in there and have your breathing restricted while you're boxing? Now, are they talking just the kind of the thin, masks that you would see, people walking around, the old people at the grocery store, like that?
I mean, they just said face masks. So I think that we should even go a little bit deeper is, okay, one, you're right. The breathing is, we're talking about, there's going to be kids there. There's going to be 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids in a boxing match, which boxing, you've watched it. It's very high-paced stuff. Like, the breathing is very, very, it's difficult as is, and then you put a mask over it. But let me ask you this, that nobody really thinks about. I'm like, the face mask is going to get punched. How many times is that face mask going to get punched, torn off, or knocked down, and how many times are we going to have to stop the fight for that? Or do you stop the fight for that?
How many times are you going to see the ref go and have to jump in? Or is it going to get to the point where amateurs, it's only on the amateur level, correct?
Yeah, because so far the pros aren't doing that.
Okay, how many times are you going to see them now on an amateur level of that be kind of one of those things you figure out how to manipulate in order to buy yourself a little time?
Oh, yeah. If I'm tired or if I got hurt, I'm gonna have my gloves up
and
just find a way to jack it down, because that's what's gonna happen. But let me even go one further. If everybody wants, and I constantly have people telling me like, believe science, Travis, believe science, believe the experts. Well, which experts are they talking about? Because there's a lot, this. But my thing is this, Brandon, in a boxing match, it's one-on-one. You're sweating on the other guy. You're throwing punches. You're holding, you're in close. Please tell me that mask is going to prevent, if the other person has COVID, 100%, you're going to get it without a mask or not, because you're competing and you're sweating on each other.
I'm assuming that they'll want to do testing prior.
Amateur boxing, there's not necessarily the funding for that, and there's
not
that's necessarily
true.
So that's why pros do that. Pros have to go and they have to pass multiple tests, because they're making they're making a lot of money. So amateurs, there's no testing required as of right now.
Why wouldn't they just figure out the legal side of it, put it in the language of anything you sign?
Oh, I bet, I'm going to tell you right now, I bet they already are doing that, as well as making you wear a mask.
That is so, I'm sorry, for those listening to us, that's stupid. We've started to cross certain lines here when it comes to this coronavirus on what makes sense and what's rational, or what's just at least being respectful, to what's just frickin' stupid. I can say frickin', right?
I mean, 100%. You can say whatever you want.
Gotcha. We've been PG-13 this whole time. Today might change. I don't know.
I think today might change.
That is irritating. Are you serious?
Brandon, I'm dead serious. Sadly, I'm serious because I don't spread false information ever, and this is 100% factual information that I went straight to the head of the Sugar Bird because I was shocked. I thought somebody was putting me on because a gym that I know was sparring, and they were wearing face masks and sparring, and I said, what the heck are you guys? I was like, are you trying to hurt your fighters? Like, what are you doing? Because I know boxing. I boxed my whole life. When you restrict your breathing, makes it tough.
Oh, absolutely.
Makes it impossible almost.
And I get there's part of a training philosophy to that when you're doing more cardio things, when you're running, whatever else.
Lungs work in a different
Correct.
way.
But not when you're actually sparring with someone. Wow.
I'm actually very worried about. I think that they're going to have people sign waivers to wear these masks, and it's going to free Sugar Bird of any liability because some of these kids are going to fight. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. Watch, and sadly, it's going to happen. These kids are going to overheat. They're going to hyperventilate. They're going to everything else you can think of, and it's going to be because of the mask. But this blows my mind.
Yeah, so I just thought about that. When I was thinking more of the liability, it was signing up to make sure they can't sue whoever's the organizer if they contract something. But no, you're right. It's now if something occurs because of the mask. Oh my gosh!
Watch. That's what's gonna. It's 100%. They're gonna make these fighters sign this stuff, and it's gonna be a little extra waiver in there because coronavirus, man. I mean, it's just. I'm starting to be deflated because has there been one episode that we haven't mentioned coronavirus?
Not yet. When does it stop? Probably the election, I guess.
I think you're right about that because, sadly, I think that as soon as the coronavirus started benefiting one political party over the other, it became political and it started getting jammed down our throats. So, do I think the coronavirus is a hoax? No. Do I think it's just going to magically disappear? No. But do I think that it's not going to be as big of a deal after the election? Yes.
Yeah.
I truly believe that.
I think, unfortunately, you're probably correct on that. And don't get me wrong. I think both sides have been politicizing the crap out of this thing. They've both been really guilty of that. I'm still kind of dumbfounded at the mask thing of watching a boxer. I get the headgear because they're amateurs, but how do you put a mask on and the headgear and you go at it? That just seems silly to me. We are now in a silly world, Travis. A silly, silly world.
Sadly, Brandon, it's more than silly, but you sounded very, very, better not say it, but sadly, we are in a very different, you know what? I'm going to say it. It's stupid. We're in stupid times right now. We are among one of the most information is at our fingertips. We are in a time where information is so readily available, but yet we're still probably one of the most misinformed generations that I'm only in my late 30s, so I can't really speak for before times, but in my time, social media, all that stuff is booming, internet, all of that. This is, in my opinion, one of the most misinformed and easily manipulated generations that I've ever witnessed.
Well, yeah, I think you're right. And I think some of it has to do with information overload, Travis, but also who controls the information. And once again, I think there are two sides to this that are overdoing the information because you don't know really what to trust. You don't know what's true, what's factual. You try to follow the rabbit trail a bit, but then I've caught myself also when I'm trying to find information. Am I just trying to feed what I think is truth and find the facts to back me up, or am I actually trying to find what's really truth? I don't know. But I think with this pandemic, if we're going to call it that,
we have to call it that.
It's now getting out of control. It's out of control. It's been out of control for a while. But here's my thought process. Let's bring it back to sports and athletics and boxing. If you are a professional or amateur, you know the risks of your sport. You know the risks of injury. You know the risks of everything, right? This is now an added risk. If you are choosing to participate, then you need to accept those risks, and we need to get the legalese out of it. And I get it. The promoters have to do what they got to do, and the organizations feel like they have to do certain things. But ultimately you're talking about, in boxing specific, a combat sport where two people are in a ring trying to knock each other's heads off. And yes, it's not as gratuitous as that, but for the most part, you're trying to flatten out the other person, your competitor. I'm sorry, you're going to worry about coronavirus and a mask? If you are a fighter and you're worried about that, don't fight. Don't fight.
See, I think you're right. You said we need to get the legalities out of it, but you know what I think we need to get out of sports is the politics. Are we in an echo chamber right now or what? Because I feel like we are, because common sense should prevail right now. And Brandon, that's a fact. We need to get politics back out of sports, because I remember an age when I watched, I remember an age. I don't remember it personally, but I've watched classic ESPN classic sports. I love it. But I remember a time when the Olympics or sporting events, it brought the country or the world together. Right now, they're using sports, in my opinion, they're using sports. Politics are using sports right now to further divide the country. I believe that. I'm looking right now, MLB, NBA, NFL, they're using sports, in my opinion, to divide the country. They're trying to pretend they're uniting the country, but you're not. You're alienating many, many people by some of the things that they're doing, and I don't agree with that. And I'm tired of politics being in our beloved sports.
Yeah, sports have been hijacked for sure. I will admit, I did catch, out of the corner of my eye, I can't remember, I was at a restaurant or something like that, and I did catch some NBA. And I finally got a look at.
How dare you?
I know.
You didn't even tell me about this.
Listen, it was in front of me. I think I was drinking a beer and it was in front of me. But either way, so I finally saw like the backs of the jerseys and how they're, promoting a certain, whatever they want to put on the back of their jerseys, right? And I looked at some of them, I'm like, okay, that really has nothing to do with what we've seen over the past few months. I think there was one about like education, like somebody put education reform on the back of their jersey. I'm like, okay, well, that's not what I was expecting. So that's not, I could stomach that one. And
do we need education reform? Probably.
Yeah, I think so. And I think a lot of it comes to like where you are state by state, whatever else. But so I saw some of that, and then you saw some of the ones that are more tied to, the George Floyd, BLM sort of stuff. I get it. But it's been hijacked completely. I should be wanting to tune into the NBA, looking at it like this, Travis. This is a once ever deal for the NBA where they're doing such a consolidated thing, a crash course, end of the season, playoffs. It should be exciting. I, as a sports fan, should want to watch this and see, oh my gosh, who's going to be that random team who was like written off before coronavirus that is now possibly going to disrupt this whole thing? I should be interested. How interested am I?
I mean, honestly, you're not.
None.
But you're not the only one, though. That's the thing. I'm not either. And
it shows in the ratings. It shows in the ratings. The ratings the NBA suck. We mentioned it last week. We're going to mention it again this week. And chances are we're going to mention it every week until they crown LeBron James as a champion, because that's really what they wanted. They wanted to put him a ring on LeBron in LA. Conspiracy or not, that's what they want. But the ratings suck. They are here. They're in our town.
Orlando. They're here in Florida. They're Disney World.
I am not interested in the slightest. Now, I was at Disney, so my wife and I went. We had our anniversary on Friday,
That's
right?
Brandon. Happy anniversary, by the way.
Thank you. 16 years of full bliss.
100% bliss.
All bliss.
I know the couple, and I can attest to that.
Oh yeah, there hasn't been a bad moment ever. I'm just kidding. She knows I'm just messing. But so we went to Epcot, which is one of the Disney parks. I'm going to tell you, Travis, it was weird, because.
Explain. Why was it? Because you are very. I'll give the viewers. You're very avid Epcot goer. You've been there many, many times. You've lived here. I mean, you're a Florida native pretty much. You've been here pretty much almost your whole life. So I'm a Florida transplant. I've only been here for about 6 to 8 years. I say 6 to 8 years because a couple of the years I was traveling the world. My address was here, but I wasn't here.
I'm a self-proclaimed Disney guy. I have no issue with that.
No shame.
We've been pass holders for a long time. I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that they do, behind the scenes, whatever. But I enjoy going to Disney. And here in Orlando, they have 4 parks. We have a good time. So Epcot's one of my favorite. Now, I get it. if anyone watches the news or has been paying attention to this sort of thing, Disney's on a limited opening basis. You have to reserve spots before you go, so you can't just show up and go in. You actually have to think about it ahead of time, and then you have to wear a face mask the whole time while you're on the park. So Epcot specifically, there's a lot of eating and drinking going on usually, but also right now they have an event called Food and Wine Festival. It happens every year, and so you go there and you sample whatever different things. So we go there, we're complying, we follow the mask thing. We show up, and keep in mind, I get my temperature checked every day before I go into the gym, so I have an idea of where I'm at. But when you park, and then you got to walk a couple football field lengths.
And it's pretty hot out. Is that what
and
you're
it's
saying?
hot as hell.
Yep.
So what they do is then they check your temperature because they want to make sure that you're not like, one of these carriers of the devil disease called coronavirus. So when they check my temperature, I just been beaten down by the sun. It rang in at 101.6.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's right. I didn't tell you this, right?
No, this is
Okay.
news to me. Oh, please divulge.
So if you're watching at home and you're seeing me sweat and wipe off with a towel, that's not because I have coronavirus. It's because, once again, we're in the TH Boxing facility, the gym, and it's hot as hell. We got the bright lights on us. It's hot as hell outside because it's Florida.
And Brandon is a hot mess.
I'm a hot mess and a hot man. So here we go. So I ring in at 101.6, and that's okay. Because they say, okay, chances are it's because of the sun, but they have like these separate tents when you first get checked, and if you're running too high, they're like, it's a cooling tent, so go in there, and we'll recheck you in a minute or two. So Travis, I go in there, and Amber's was a little high too, so we go in there.
Everybody's probably was.
Well, I'll get to why that was weird in a second.
Okay.
So we go in there, and there's big fans blowing, and they got cold ice water, and they got it all. And I'm like, I would have liked this anyways. If I'm in a normal circumstance, if I'm walking up to the park, I'd want a little cool off too.
I try to fake this.
So we sit in the tent and we're like, all right, well, we know we're not sick. So let me just get this fan to blow me off like right in front of my face.
Brandon, did you just say blow me off?
PG-13, yeah. So between that and the cold ice water, I'm like, look, I'm going to put it all over my forehead. They come back in, they check me, and I'm fine then. Because I wasn't being just grilled by the sun for a few minutes while on my walk. So anyways, that wasn't the weird part. We're fine complying with that, in order to go and have a good time. Travis, it was a Friday afternoon, Friday evening. It was dead. It was weird. There was
that's eerie.
no one there.
It's eerie then, huh?
There was no one there.
Ooh.
And usually that's like one of the busiest times, especially during the special event, Food and Wine Festival, because people are scared. They are scared right now to do anything. They're scared to live. And I get it. There are certain situations and certain things to be worried and concerned about with this. I understand. I have a good...
Wait. But what do you understand? I don't understand.
You don't understand any of this?
No, I don't understand the scaredness of it.
Oh, okay.
But because I'm gonna go in my personal experience, something that just happened is why I say this, everybody, before everybody jumps on me. I'm saying this because my father, who is 60 years old, he's been traveling on about a 3-month excursion across the country in an RV with him and his girlfriend. And he's been going everywhere, making stops in Arizona, Colorado, Wyoming, California, everywhere, right? He just flew from Colorado to Texas, and he's doing a job there. He's helping out with some stuff. So he took a COVID test. He tested negative, but then he was like, you know what? He's like, I've been all over the country. He's like, I want to see if I've been in contact or I have the antibodies as well. So there's a different test. It's an antibody test to show that you either had it in your system or you have antibodies for it. And he tested positive for that, which means he either came in contact or had it. Both. My dad, let me tell you, is not the healthiest individual. Sorry, Pops, I got to say that. He is now.
He's getting better.
He's getting
I've seen him.
better.
Dude, he looks great.
Dad, I love you, but my dad was up to 276 pounds at one time a couple of years ago. He took it upon himself to get healthier. It wasn't about the looks. It was about being healthier because he became on a bunch of medication. He became obese, technically. He got diabetes, things like that. Sorry, Dad, I'm telling everybody about this, but I think they can learn from it.
But what I will say, he has the best mustache in the game.
He does. Brandon is not wrong when he says that. But so my pops did a whole year of just like getting better. He didn't do this quick fix thing. He did this whole year of just slow, steady progress. And my dad got down to like 215 pounds from 276. And you know how he did it? He did it through a good diet, he cut back a lot of his stuff. And then guess what he started doing? He started working out.
Oh, imagine that.
Imagine that, country. How about can we start talking about this? I did a post a couple of days ago, and it was a post of people standing in line for a vaccine and masks, and it was people that weren't standing in line that said getting healthier, diet, supplements, blah, blah, blah.
To add a little context to it, it wasn't like real people. It was a cartoon, but it was meant to point out that,
yes.
Yeah, got it.
So the point is that we're making a big deal of COVID, which I think we should always be very cognizant of our health, 100%. I'm a germaphobe, so when I go out, there's a lot of things that I do that I should make a video of this. There's a lot of things that I do. I don't touch doorknobs. I don't touch door handles. I try to wait for somebody to open it, and I catch it with my foot, especially in the bathrooms. So when I go to the bathrooms, and then if they don't have the automatic washers, right, what I'll do is I'll turn it off with my hand. I'll wash my hands. I grab a paper towel. I turn off the nozzle.
You're one of those. Okay.
I am. And you know what, though? I'm one of those, Brandon. And I want to tell the world that I've never had a vaccine, or I've never had a flu vaccine shot ever in my life. I've traveled the world. Matter of fact, I have been to Wuhan, China 3 years ago because of my fiance's tennis. We were in China, Wuhan, where the virus came from, right? You just need to be more conscious of your health and of when you wash your hands and things you touch, and don't touch your face. That should have been something that was common knowledge, in my opinion.
Sure.
And you should still do that right now. We should all practice better hygiene, better clean habits, better when we're in public, when you cough and you sneeze. We shouldn't be coughing and sneezing in other people's faces or their food or whatever.
What if they deserve it? Okay, so this isn't me jumping on you at all, okay? Because I tend to agree with most of that. I know my household, it's more or less, we hated feeling confined in the early days. The moment we could really kind of break out, we were there. We got out of our house because you know what? You do
have
those
two
things.
Children as well.
Yeah, I have 2 kids, and we're not trapping them. I believe that kids should be in school. And by the way, for everyone that would want to jump on that comment, you want to believe Dr. Fauci and the CDC on everything else except that. So pick and choose, I guess. But they're also saying it. So I think kids need to be back. That's a sidetrack moment. But not to jump on you. When I mention like the fear, I understand the fear involved. It's for those people that possibly could be susceptible to something. They have a pre-existing. I have a good friend of mine that is, I don't know the levels of diabetes, but he's up there. He has wiring connected to his body. And he's talked to me the whole time during this whole thing. He's like, listen, I'm not scared, but I'm concerned. He's like, so from before we were asked to wear masks in public or at the grocery store, he was doing it already. Just because his body is already kind of worn down from certain things.
Because of normal viruses. There's a million.
Yes. So from a fear standpoint, that's what I mean. But when I walk into a place like Epcot at Disney World, why it was so weird is because there should have been more people there. There should have been more people like us where we're taking the precautions. We're not being stupid. The fear has gripped people, and unnecessarily so, because that's all we're seeing. All we're seeing is the bad numbers and not actually looking at the statistics and not looking at the rates declining. Now, Florida, we're actually in like a hot zone, if you want to call it that, when you look at other states involved. Yet, if I'm driving around where we live, it's frickin' slammed on the roads. Okay? So which is it, people? Is it we shouldn't be doing this and you shouldn't send your kids to school? Or, I need to do my little run to make sure I go to TJ Maxx and get some clothes and whatever else? Come on. Our society is full of crap. Maybe that is the slogan for our podcast. Society's full of crap.
Think differently.
Think differently. Don't think
outside the box.
Don't think like crap. Okay, listen. So
but seriously,
I think what we're going to do here, let's take our little pause. Let's pay some bills. We're going to jump back in, and we'll talk a little bit about what we're drinking, give them some props, dive back in, maybe even pull it back to sports and boxing.
Oh, that's right. We're doing.
That's right.
Travis Hartman.
That's right.
I forgot.
Anyways, once again, if you're here and you're listening or watching, thank you so much. Please subscribe, give us a like, give us a follow, tell your friends about us, tell them about those two idiots that want to talk like they know stuff. That's cool with us too, until it's not. And then we'll let you know when it's not, because no, I'm just kidding. Just give us some love. We appreciate you, and we'll be back in just a few moments. It'll feel like nothing to you because literally it's like a few seconds break.
Boom.
But we might go fill up some ice in our cups, might go to the bathroom. I don't know.
Brandon, I'll be back.
I can't wait to have you. All right, we'll be back. Thanks. All right, so we're back from break. And you know, Travis, I'm thinking more current events, and I feel like sometimes I'm almost asking your opinion and interviewing you. So given in light of something I saw maybe a day or two ago, Travis, do you feel or have you had a cognitive test recently?
Wait, I mean, did you do a cocaine test before you got here? Like, are you on cocaine? Do I don't know that you're not. Like, why would you come at me like that?
And moving on to the subject then. Okay. So we're just poking fun at politics because I tell you what, it's going to get crazy and heated between now and November. Before the break, I mentioned when we come back, we were going to talk a little bit about what we're drinking here. So, oops, I hit my mic. So we are drinking some Knob Creek Twice Barreled Rye. As you can see, depending on the camera angle, let me put it on this one. We're almost there. Okay, so it's I
got a story about Knob Creek.
All right, tell me about it.
That specific bottle was for my birthday, and it was from my main man, Giles. Good people, good man. He got this for me to try because he knew I was getting into a little bit of whiskey, a little bit of bourbon, all of that. So he was like, yeah, try this, Travis. So Giles, I thank you for this, sir. I appreciate this. We've, as you can tell, almost drank it all. So I definitely have enjoyed it.
And Giles, I don't know you, but I want to know you, and I thank you too. So it's very good. Has a nice finish to it, and you know what? In this hot garage gym, we are really just pouring it on. So between that, the water, I think we're in good shape. Also, I don't know if you can see at home, but I am eating some stuff from Travis's fiance. What is it called again?
It's a garlic naan with, I don't know what the sauce is.
It's a tzatziki sauce. It's very good. So I'll let her know after we're done filming, but overall, I am very satisfied, Travis. So when I start chewing, I'm going to toss it to you. Travis, we left the break.
Wait, can I just jump in real quick?
Yeah,
you said you were very satisfied. And I just wanted to say, that's what she said. Okay, anyways, go ahead, Brandon.
Is it though?
I mean, but you said Travis. I'm very satisfied. So that is what she said.
Well, maybe that might be a discussion for later.
That's a different podcast. It's a different podcast.
Anyways, different podcast. We are here on PG-13. The wheels are falling off. I don't know if you can tell so far since we come back from break. So anyways, let's get back on topic a bit. As what seems like has been the consistent topic for us and others as well, it's the big C, coronavirus, the big C. And talking about how it's impacting not only our day-to-day life, but really the sports community. Because if you're listening to us, you're following us because you want to hear about our take on boxing, sports. Maybe you just love Travis. Maybe you love me. Maybe you hate Travis. Maybe you hate me. Maybe you hate us both together.
It's a love-hate relationship.
It's always a love-hate relationship. But the big C is impacting our lives in various ways. And sports specifically. So, Travis, I'm trying to think beyond just now. I'm trying to get into the next month, the next 2 months, 3 months. Where does it end? Let's talk boxing specifically here. We were talking about how amateurs now have to wear a mask while they're competing in the middle of competition. What, in your opinion, as a fighter, fighter hat, promoter hat, trainer hat, what are the possibilities that you're going to see that trickle into the professional realm?
I don't know. And that's the most honest and accurate answer that I can give. And I think that if anybody in this time right now pretends that they know, they're lying or manipulating you, because we don't know. Right now it's so crazy. Everything is just so crazy. It's so politicized. It's so, you listen to this expert, I listen to this expert, because let's be honest, there's a lot of experts saying a lot of different things. Like they're banning, as of recently, there's a woman and a bunch of other people that were coming, frontline workers and doctors who were coming across saying, hydrochloroquine, it works, use it. I've treated 300 and some patients and they've all recovered from it, right? So what experts are we supposed to listen to? And Brandon, who are we supposed to listen to specifically? Because they tell me experts, but then I'm like, your experts? Or his experts, or whose experts? And so who's the expert, Brandon? Who's the expert?
So here's the crappy thing about the expert conversation and the information that we get, and I know this isn't directly related to sports, but it impacts it, is that if one quote-unquote expert has this to say about it, then immediately the people on the other side jump on it and attack it. And this goes both ways, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're more right-leaning when it comes to some of this stuff, you think it's more of a conspiracy-ish or hoax-ish type thing. I saw you staring at this. I know you probably wanted some. I'm sorry, I only have one bite left.
It's waiting for me later.
Well, that's true. Okay, so it happens on both sides. So when an expert comes forth and says, well, I've treated this many people, or I think this, immediately you have 50% of people saying and discrediting them in every way possible, personally, professionally, everything, because it doesn't fit the narrative. And once again, it's not one side or another. They both are doing it. So us as a general public, we're left with our hands in the air like, I don't know what to believe. I don't know what to think. I have a feeling like internally what I like to think, but then you're nervous to actually put that on a social media or discuss it with somebody.
Or a podcast like right now.
Or a podcast. I'm not too worried about it now. Now, a few Knob Creeks has helped that. I've said it in prior weeks. I'll be respectful. If a business requires something, I get it. I'm going to be respectful. That's their joint. It's not mine. I'm going to do what I got to do. I'm not going to go and then like piss and moan about it and like throw my hands in the air like you're taking away my rights. No, I'm not going to think that way. But also have common sense. If you're an amateur boxer, or if you're these league, or if you're this commissioner or whatever that organizes this and dictates the rules, have some common sense.
It's USA Boxing, Brandon.
Have some common sense, USA Boxing. The Big C isn't going to be controlled by the amateurs having a paper mask on their face while they're boxing. That's only going to potentially hurt them or restrict some things. Imagine what happens, Travis. Now, it would take some effort. What happens if they get hit and that thing covers up their vision?
Yep. You're opening a whole new avenue of crazy things that can happen, because that's like, I didn't even think of that one. I thought of it just coming down over their chin, below that, so their face is not covered and their nose is not covered anymore. But yeah, you're right. An uppercut can easily push that above their eyes. And it's just, there's a realm of excuses. There's a realm of just so many things that could happen, which for me, all that means is, why are we doing it? Because again, I don't care who you are. I don't care what doctor you are. I guarantee you every single doctor will tell you that if you have coronavirus and you box in the ring with another man, I don't care what you're wearing, unless you're in a bubble and wearing a bubble suit, you're going to get it if you're supposed to get it, okay? So the mask is not going to stop you. So you're right. I do agree, and I'm not on this whole trip of, oh, my God, my rights. Although, fair enough, I respect those people that don't like it and don't want to do it either. You are in the United States of America. Therefore, you're allowed to have your opinion, your rights, your freedoms to do as you please. However, if you go in somebody else's public or somebody else's private business, then you know what? At the end of the day, as long as they're not asking some absurd things for you to do, if they say they want you to wear a mask to go in their business, you know what? Then respect it. Or don't go.
Correct.
It's pretty simple. Like, I wear one. I don't like the masks. I don't, in my personal opinion, I don't believe that the masks are doing what they think that they're doing, because if they were, then we would have never shut down. California, they re-shut down again. If the masks work, why are you shut down?
Let me pause you right there. That's interesting because you're right. There are more mask regulations right now across every state, all the counties. There's more mask regulations, so we're doing it more, yet the numbers haven't. I mean, we're still getting more numbers, right? And now they're not necessarily from a percentage standpoint like increasing dramatically, but
testing standpoint they are.
Because we test more. But if this was really the end all, or what's going to curb this thing, why aren't we seeing that impact the numbers more dramatically? Because everyday life now, school, work, social interactions, you now basically are required to have some sort of a mask. Like I brought up the whole Epcot example. We had to walk around with a mask around Epcot the whole afternoon/evening. And I did it because, you know what? If I didn't, they would tell me to put it on.
Or they wouldn't have let you in.
But Travis, once again, it was hot as hell. That thing was hot as hell. And as a fellow beardsman, you know that thing is hot on top of a beard.
Hey, as a fellow beardsman, fairly recently again, because I did shave it off.
That's true. Keep it going, because when you shave that off, you look really baby-faced. It's not a good look.
Brandon, I don't know. Some people think it's a really good look. However, I am very partial to the beard. I like the beard. I'm okay with the beard. I'm now to the point to where I am managing it a little better, because I'm a rookie when it comes to the beard. I didn't even know that I could grow a beard until I turned 30. That's the true story. Anybody that knows me knows this, that I never ever had even close to a beard. And after I turned 30, right before one of my boxing matches, I grew a beard. And turns out I can grow a pretty good beard. Like you, that thick, nice, just...
Well, what I'm going to say, Travis, and this is not meant as a slight on you, but you definitely have the vacation vibe going. You got the beard grown. You got the Hawaiian shirt. The flamingos are popping. You are giving the big middle finger to the big C being coronavirus, and I love it. I don't necessarily love that look. For those watching at home, you probably will never see Travis and I wearing similar Hawaiian shirts ever, because I don't wear Hawaiian shirts.
When it comes to our style, me and Brandon do not live in an echo chamber.
No, a lot of other stuff we talk about, echo chamber, but style, probably not as much so. You know, I'm wearing a beer shirt, I think. Yeah, I'm looking at the video.
No, it's a Cigar City. Oh, yeah.
Cigar out of City Tampa, props to them. They're one of my faves. They're good people out there. So, Travis.
Cigar City Brewing, where are you at? Show us some love.
Absolutely. I was on the highlight kick a long time ago before it got national. So, anyways, it's a look for you, and I know you're running with it. That's great for you. But you got the beard. Keep the beard. You got the hairs kind of doing its thing. You're living life.
Listen, it's Sunday Fun Day, man. You know the
term. Sunday Fun Day.
I'm living life because I work really hard during the week, and this is my only day. For one, Sunday's God's day, but Sunday is also relax day for Travis. So I'm relaxing. I'm living life, man. My goal is eventually to have a new different shirts every weekend, a crazy button-up flowered shirt, and I know Brandon has seen my next weekend shirt.
I've seen it.
It's a matching outfit.
Jeez,
I appreciate it. I think I'm gonna have to wear it for the next podcast. No, like how do I not? Like I have to.
I feel like this podcast
living life, Brandon.
I think we got derailed a long time ago. I think before the break we just derailed quickly.
First of all, the podcast name is Weighing In with Travis Hartman. It does not say what we have to weigh in about.
No.
We are actually technically on topic.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I think people appreciate your boxing prowess and your thoughts in the community with combat sports, things like that, because you've been in it your whole life. When did you actually start? How old were you when you started?
Oh, my gosh. I was 6 years old when I actually started. However, when I started competing, I was 8 because that was USA Boxing rules at the time. So I was actually 8 years old. So that would have been 1991, I believe. Yeah, 1991.
What actually got you into it when you were 6?
That's a long story.
We have time.
I was the first of our family. I have 2 older brothers and a younger brother. and I had happened to stay the night at one of my friends' house, and we went to the local YMCA the next day. So I'm from a very small town, population 400. We don't have much. At the time, we had one grocery store. That was it. So there wasn't much going on.
The fact that you had a YMCA is pretty incredible.
No, we didn't have a YMCA.
Oh.
That's the point. It was the town over that had the YMCA. So we didn't even have it. But it just happened that I stayed the night with one of my friends, and his parents took us to the YMCA the next day. It was a Saturday, and they had a boxing program there. And I just happened to stumble upon it. Literally, it was dumb luck. However, I don't believe in luck. I believe in blessings, and I think that God blessed me with the fact that he brought boxing into my life, because I wasn't supposed to be a boxer. I wasn't supposed to be in boxing. And anybody that knows me knows that, because my dad never boxed, ever. My brothers never boxed. So I went, I found boxing. However, I like to tell everybody boxing found me, because I wasn't looking for it, so I didn't find it. Boxing found me. So I found boxing, came home, told my parents about it. They didn't like it, as of most parents wouldn't like it. So I had to convince them. Finally, I convinced them. My dad, who's a big football guy, he's a Texas guy, so he's a big football guy, took me and the family, the brothers. I have 2 older brothers and younger, took us all there. My oldest brother actually ended up fighting as well.
Whoa.
And wow, we're in good old Florida right now. That was a thunderstorm, ladies and gentlemen.
This podcast has it all. We had the ghost open the door earlier.
Oh
we got thunder. We got thunder outside. This is the excitement. This is what we love about this podcast.
Thunder rolls in.
So if for those that may have watched or have gone in our catalog and watched some of the prior ones, so like our first podcast, it had some of this vibe, right? Because we were shooting the breeze. We weren't sure how this was going to be. We had people going to the front door. We had distractions. It was cool. I enjoyed that. So
life. It's like life.
Listen,
life
not to bring you off topic, because I've never known this stuff, so I do want to hear about it. So sorry, God, for the lightning and thunder.
I feel like God was telling me, he's like, you know what, Travis?
Keep
like,
going.
Right. He is. He was like, dude, how crazy was that right in the middle of that story that he struck down? He's like, that's right, Travis. Keep going where you're going. That's how I see it, at least.
Well, God, if you can give us a sign that's not as loud, because as we edit the audio, that might sound weird.
But either way, I started boxing. My dad became my coach. And fast forward to 14 years as a USA Boxing sanctioned amateur fighter. I had 170 amateur fights. I won 156 wins, only 13 losses in 14 years. So it was a blessing. And it was a blessing because my dad never boxed. And I trained under the tutelage of the great Dennis Zekel, who, God rest his soul, he passed away when I was 17. But he taught my dad everything. So my dad and Dennis were my coaches from the very beginning. But fast forward, coolest thing ever in my life that I don't talk about enough. I feel like I tell people this story all the time. They're like, literally I've known people my whole life. And when I tell them that I actually fought at Madison Square Garden,
yeah, they're
like, what? You fought at Madison? And I was like, yeah, man. I fought at Madison Square Garden, where Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, the greats fought at Madison Square Garden.
So when Travis and I do pre-production talks and even post-production, we're talking about how the podcast went, kind of what we want to do next time around, whatever else. I always tell him, I'm like, guy, you have so much stuff that you've been a part of and you've experienced in your career, amateur and professionally speaking, and a lot of folks are tuning in not just for the take on what's going on currently, but they want to hear that stuff too. It would be so awesome to hear a lot of that, because me being a good friend of yours, it's like I don't even know this stuff, and so it's so cool to me because I've lived an average Joe life over here, right? Just kind of go about my life. I've been in Florida most of it, whatever. But to hear some of this stuff is so cool. You're a wealth of knowledge, not just on what's going forward with boxing, but what you've experienced since you've been 6 years old. So not to cut you off, let's talk about MSG a little bit. Madison Square Garden, not Chinese food. MSG, Madison Square Garden.
It was pretty cool, but it was a little bittersweet, though, to be honest, Brandon, because, and I only say that because if anybody knows who I am, they see my amateur record and all of my accolades, and then they compare it to my pro. It's two different stories. Meaning, I lost literally 13 fights in 14 years, Brandon, and I won 156 fights in the amateurs, right? And in the pros, it wasn't that pretty. I have a below average professional boxing record as well. And I've only had like 44, 45 pro fights. It was just a different story. And I say that because Madison Square Garden example, Madison Square Garden, I fought there March 10th, I believe, 2007. So let me give you a little backstory to that, is the fact that the first week of February, my brother, my father, and some friends, we wanted to go out to Las Vegas the first week of February. I had nothing planned, okay? There was no boxing on the schedule. I just fought in January. I knocked somebody out like in the second round, I believe. And then I was like, you know what? It's time for a vacation. So I decided that I wanted to go to Vegas. So we did. We went to Vegas for about 4 or 5 days. The Super Bowl was going on. So we were like, hey, let's bet on the Super Bowl. So we're in Vegas. We're like, let's bet on the Super Bowl. We did it, right? I go home. This is 2007, so you guys can look this up, too, to fact check me. But I go home, and the NBA All-Star Game happened to be out in Las Vegas. I think it was the middle to the end of February of 2007. Huge basketball fan, mind you. I'm a huge basketball fan. Even though we're not big NBA fans, I'm a huge basketball fan. I love college basketball. I love all there is to about basketball. It's my favorite sport to play, actually. Boxing's a close second, but basketball's my favorite. So I'm out there for the NBA All-Star Game and partying, having fun, doing my thing. And the next thing I know is on the way home, I get a call for fighting at Madison Square Garden. It was crazy because I had been in Vegas the first week of February. I already fought, guys, so I wasn't like that I was slacking or not training. It was the fact that I'd already fought. I had nothing scheduled, and I went to Vegas for the first week of February, partied. I had a good time. I had a really good time with my family. Then we come back, and they have the NBA All-Star Game out there, so I said, heck yeah, let's go. I'm a huge fan. So me and my younger brother actually went to the NBA All-Star Game. It was cool as heck.
I didn't even know that.
It was cool as heck. I got to see Carlos Boozer, Kobe Bryant, all of those guys, Shaq,
Hold on.
Close.
I got to stop you for a second. You go to the All-Star Game. You tell us about it. The first name you came up with was Carlos Boozer?
I know. It's funny because the reason that I brought it up, because, listen, you're going to find out that I'm a pretty straightforward guy. I don't BS too much, and I'm pretty honest when it comes to a lot of topics. I really am. I give it how it is. And Carlos Boozer is one of the first guys we saw because we went to this NBA fan experience thing or something, and he was the first guy that I saw. And the reason I brought it up because he was most memorable because Carlos Boozer, big guy. He's a down low guy, right? You see him on TV, you're like, this guy is a presence.
Had a good beard.
Massive,
I remember
right?
He always had a nice, perfectly groomed beard.
But I met him in person, super thin.
Well,
he was thin.
Well, no, because his position was surprising to me whenever I would watch back then. I believe Carlos Boozer was listed as a power forward, but he was small for his position. He was as versatile. It was kind of at that
he was
turning.
A tall guy, though.
Yeah, but he was slender. But it was not the typical power forward type frame that you were used to, because that was in that transitionary period where power forwards started shooting the ball more and they played more on the wings. Versus when we were growing up kids and we watched power forwards on the block. So Carlos Boozer, though, man.
But seeing him on TV still, he looked a little jacked to me. He was jacked. Got some big arm. He looked a little jacked. And I saw him in person. I was like, that's not what I remember seeing. Big guy still, obviously.
Maybe he saw you and you're like, Travis, that's Travis Hartman. I can't believe that's Travis Hartman. He's not as big as I thought.
If you would have said that to my face, we would have had a throwdown. I'm kidding. Carlos Boozer, big guy. But we saw Carlos Boozer and even Shaq. Shaq in person in 2007
big guy.
He wasn't as big as on TV. That was what I'm they were not as big looking as you see them tall. He's tall, obviously. You can't lie about that. He's over 7 foot. That's real. He is. But now he's put on a lot of weight too. But then in 2007, to me, he didn't look that big because fast forward, I saw him about 3 years ago in person again. 2007, I saw him. Let's fast forward. Let's say it was about 2016, I think it was. I was in London at Wimbledon with my fiance. She was playing there. Shaq was there. I met Shaq again there in person. He did look a little bigger, but he'd also not been playing for a little bit. But my point is, he looked massive though.
Well,
on TV. He looked massive.
Well,
in person, a little thinner.
We have somebody that we're going to bring in on this podcast probably in the next couple of weeks, depending on scheduling. Now, he's not a professional fighter. He's not even an amateur fighter. But he is a boxing enthusiast who has a wealth of knowledge. His name is Brian Price. I bring him up because he has a Shaq story as well.
The man, the myth, the legend.
He has a Shaq
Price.
story. I do not want to take away the thunder, but he had an encounter with him at a UFC fight in Orlando.
Brian is a huge UFC guy as well.
And huge boxing.
He's a combat fan, and because he's a huge boxing fan.
If you walk into his house, it's boxing memorabilia all over the house, which is awesome. It's so cool to walk into his home and see all these things, and he's very proud of it, and he should be. But he is a hoot. I can't wait to have him. I called him a hoot. I can't wait to have him on here. I don't mean to pull away from your story, but just because I remember the way he describes this encounter is just so funny. That is when we're going to put on the Rated R logo.
That's the highlight reel.
That's going to be the Rated R podcast, I think, with Brian Price. But anyways, I digress. Travis, we're talking?
So I'll pick it back up, yes.
Okay,
so I was at the All-Star game. I had a blast. I had fun like every other kid. I don't know what I was. I was 24, 23, 24, 25, something like that. Professional boxer. I turned pro when I was 20. So it was, 3 to 5 years in. I get the offer to fight at Madison Square Garden. However, Brandon, I don't get the offer until I'm on my way home from being at Vegas twice in February. And they called me literally a week before the fight. A week before I'm supposed to fight at Madison Square Garden. They say, hey, Travis, you want to fight? It's at Madison Square Garden. I'm like, holy crap, that's amazing. And then they tell me the date. And I was like, I was honest with them though, man. I'm honest to a fault sometimes where I said, people are not going to believe me when I tell this, but if the matchmaker or the promotion company is listening when I tell this story, they can corroborate this because I initially said no. They said, Travis, do you want to fight at Madison Square Garden? They told me the money, they told me the opponent, and I said yes. And then they told me the date, and I said, guys, I've been to Vegas twice this month. I'm not kidding when I tell you this. I haven't looked at a gym. We were in Vegas, and I seen the hotel gym, and I was like, I'm not going in there. Because I just fought in January. I won by a second round knockout, I believe it was. And I'm like, I'm chilling. I'm taking my time off. The one thing that I realized in boxing was you have to take your time off in between fights. You do. You have to really rehab, take your time off. So anyway, long story. They offered me the fight. I said no. They said, okay, we respect that. I'm glad you were honest with us. Told us, you weren't training, blah, 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 right? But then they called me back again. Left me a voicemail because I didn't answer it. Then I called them back. I was like, listen, I wasn't trying to get more money. I wasn't. I was trying to be honest. I haven't been in the gym. I'm not ready. This sucks because I come from a town of population 400. I just turned down Madison Square Garden once. Now they're asking me to turn it down twice. And I said, I took a deep breath and I said no. I actually said no twice to Madison Square Garden, Brandon, because I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready, and this guy's a legit guy, and I was like, I'm not ready. Finally, long story short, they call back again. They offer me more money. I'm a stupid kid at this point. I don't have a manager. I'm doing all of this by myself. I said yes. I was like, yeah, for sure. You're going to pay me this much money, and I get to fight at Madison Square Garden? I was like, let's do it. Sign me up. Send me the contract. They send me the contract. I signed it. I send it back. I go out there. I get my butt kicked, easily. However, I fight a guy, Shimon Alvarez. He beat me. His very next fight, he fought Joshua Clottey, and the winner of that fought Manny Pacquiao. So I'm right there, but they're giving me 2, 3, 4, 5 days notice on these fights.
Notice.
But still, I look back now and I'm just you know what? It is what it is, but also it's part of my resume. How many people in the world can say that they fought at Madison Square Garden?
Absolutely.
And I'm looking right now in my gym, and I have a picture of Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali fought at Madison Square Garden. Mike Tyson fought at Madison Square Garden. All of the greats have fought at Madison Square Garden. It is still very famous. It's so famous that Anthony Joshua, heavyweight champion of the world, he had to come to America. He's from England. He had to come to America to try to lay his claim on the belt. And guess where he fought his first fight in America? Madison Square Garden. So it's a very famed auditorium, and I fought there. got my butt kicked there, but I fought there.
That's okay, but the story behind, the context behind it, and Madison Square Garden, it's such an iconic venue for any sport, for anything really. But the fact that you've boxed on the stage that so many other greats have before you and will continue after you as well is awesome. And that is thank you for sharing, by the way.
I feel super blessed to do that, man.
Yeah.
Even though I got my butt kicked, I feel blessed.
And that's great.
There's a famous picture on the Associated Press that I was a sports journalist for a newspaper, and there's a very, very popular picture of that fight. It's not a good one.
Oh, boy.
Don't look it up.
Okay.
But it's from Madison. There's an Associated Press picture of me at Madison Square Garden that I'm not a fan of.
But still, the fact that you were there, the fact that you can have that photo speaks volumes. So you've had an awesome career. I look forward to in the coming weeks that we talk a little bit more about that. And thank you for sharing that with us. I think our audience likes hearing that stuff from you too. So thank you very much. I think that was a good break away from our regular Big C conversation and things like that. So to kind of recap some things that we talked about today, the calendar's starting to get jam-packed. You know, Fox Sports has released a few things that they're coming out with. August 22nd, 29th, we stopped there, but there's more beyond that into September. Obviously, we have Tyson, Roy Jones Jr. in September as well, and the exhibition fight. Just a lot of stuff's coming into the boxing realm. So be paying attention to that. Stay tuned to that, because these guys, they're putting it all on the line. You know, it's we talked a bit about contracts and when it comes to the money in the different sports. Man, there's an unprecedented time we're living in. Okay,
this will go down in the history books.
This will, and I think decades from now they're going to look back at this time period and be like, this is where, you know, you were refined by fire based on a lot of the rules, regulations that you had to adhere to. You're fighting in front of no fans. Maybe we'll talk about that next week, because I'm sure you have experience with that. Not saying you didn't have a lot of fans, but I'm sure you've had some experience fighting in front of almost none.
Very true, actually, early on.
So we'll talk about that maybe next week, maybe the week after. But there's a lot of stuff coming on in the boxing world. So stay tuned to the calendar, be paying attention, and support these guys and gals that are fighting. You know, we've talked about some female fighters out there too. There's a lot to really look forward to. That will take you away from the Big C. That'll take you away from this life that we've been presented. You know, so just think rationally with your heads, folks, if you're hearing my voice and you haven't turned us off by now. Travis, let's go with closing thoughts. You got anything for us to wrap up this conversation?
I mean, use common sense, people. I already said my stories about how when I go out in public, what I do, wash my hands, I don't open doors, I use my foot as much as I can. That's at the end of the day, and I only bring that up because I'm ready for the country and the world to get back to normal, because as much as normal as we can, because we can all just be better health-wise. And listen, the masks can do one thing, but you know what you can do the best is you can boost your own immune system, which will fight off more viruses other than the Big C. You can fight off every other virus possible if you just have a strong immune system, you have a better diet, you exercise more, and naturally take it into your own hands as much as you can, because at the end of the day, I'm a Christian, Brandon. I believe in God, and I believe what's supposed to happen is supposed to happen. So I'm going to do all the necessary things that I can control. And if God says, guess what, Travis, you're going to die of coronavirus tomorrow, what can I do? I got to accept that. But in the meantime, I'm going to prepare myself to live a very long life, meaning I want to live a long life post-coronavirus. So boost your immune system, exercise daily, and listen and subscribe to Weighing In with Travis Hartman. And your life will be good.
I think that alone will make your life a lot better. You know, to that end, I think if you were cast the short stick of you're going to get the Big C, statistics show you probably won't die from it. I'm just going to say that. So anyways, thank you all for tuning in. Next week, we'll be back with you. And just check us out on Spotify. I believe we're on iTunes, YouTube, all of them. You know, just look up Weighing In with Travis Hartman. I'm Brandon Waters. That over there is Travis Hartman.
That is Brandon Waters.
I'm the one that screwed it up this week. So yeah.
He did.
So whatever. Anyways, we appreciate your support. We appreciate you listening on. And next time we'll be back even better, because it only gets better from here, Travis.
Always.
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 All right. Thank you very much. God bless. Bye. This has been Weighing In with Travis Hartman. Thanks again for listening to our ramblings, and for the latest and greatest ramblings, please subscribe below or give us a like. We appreciate it. Thanks.